The detection came on an otherwise unremarkable Tuesday, deep in the bowels of NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her displays in disbelief. The object approaching Jupiter's orbit didn't match any known celestial patterns. Its movement was too precise, too deliberate. "Director Matthews," she called, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I think you need to see this." The object was sleek, its surface composed of what appeared to be living metal that shifted and flowed like mercury. It had already passed through the asteroid belt, deliberately adjusting its trajectory to avoid even the smallest debris. This was no natural phenomenon. This was first contact. Within hours, the world's major powers convened an emergency session of the United Nations. Military satellites were repositioned, defense systems were brought to high alert, and humanity collectively held its breath. The object, now designated Visitor 1, continued its methodical approach toward Earth. 3 days later, it broadcast its first message. The transmission came simultaneously to every major radio telescope and communication facility on Earth. The message was elegant in its simplicity, a mathematical sequence that proved the sender's intelligence, followed by a declaration in perfect English and 24 other Earth languages. "Greetings, children of Sol. We are the Meridian Empire, guardians of civilized space. Your primitive radio emissions have reached our borders. We come to evaluate your potential for advancement under our guidance." In the UN Security Council chamber, Admiral James Rodriguez couldn't help but smile. "Primitive, huh?" he muttered, looking at the quantum tablet in his hands. Humanity had kept their most significant technological advances secret for precisely this moment. The Meridian probe arrived in Earth orbit exactly 1 week after its first transmission. It was immediately surrounded by what appeared to be crude orbital platforms, simple satellites that the Meridians dismissed as primitive observation tools. They didn't realize these platforms house humanity's most advanced quantum sensors, analyzing every aspect of Meridian technology. High above the Earth, the probe initiated what it believed would be a simple diplomatic protocol. Its artificial intelligence was programmed to handle first contact with developing civilizations, typically those just beginning to explore their solar systems with chemical rockets and basic ion engines. The probe's first mistake was assuming the small vessels approaching it were the best humanity could offer. These ships, deliberately designed to look unimpressive, were crewed by Earth's finest scientists and diplomatic teams. Among them was Dr. Elena Rossi, whose groundbreaking work in quantum entanglement communication had revolutionized human technology, all while keeping it hidden from potential cosmic observers. "Greetings, Meridian representatives," Elena transmitted, using the probe's preferred communication protocol. "We are honored by your presence and eager to learn." The careful humility in her voice masked the fact that her ship's quantum processors were already decoding the probe's underlying operating systems. The probe's response was predictably condescending. "Your enthusiasm is noted, young ones. The Meridian Empire will guide your species toward proper civilization. Your current technology level suggests approximately 3 centuries of development will be required before you can be considered for provisional membership." Elena exchanged knowing looks with her crew. The humans had detected the probe's quantum signature weeks before it had spotted Earth. They had prepared extensively for this moment, carefully crafting their response to appear exactly as advanced as they wanted the Meridians to think they were. "We look forward to learning from your wisdom," Elena responded, while her ship's systems quietly mapped every frequency the probe used, every energy signature it emitted, and every subtle fluctuation in its living metal hull. The probe proceeded to transmit what it considered basic scientific knowledge, principles of faster-than-light travel, quantum mechanics, and energy manipulation. What it didn't realize was that its transmission protocols were revealing far more about Meridian technology than the actual content of its messages. Dr. Chen, now aboard one of the observation platforms, was practically giddy with excitement. "They've based their entire technological framework on crystalline quantum matrices," she whispered to her colleague. "They never even considered biological quantum computing. They have no idea what we're capable of. The probe's mission lasted 3 days, during which it thoroughly documented what it perceived as humanity's technological level. Its final report to the Meridian Empire described Earth as a promising but ultimately underdeveloped world, suitable for standard uplift protocols. As the probe prepared to depart, Alina transmitted one final message. "Thank you for your guidance. We have one small gift to show our gratitude." The probe received what appeared to be a simple mathematical proof. Elegant, but well within its understanding. What the probe didn't realize was that hidden within this proof was a quantum algorithm that would slowly, subtly alter its perception of time. By the time it reached Meridian space, weeks would have passed instead of the expected days, and its data would be just slightly, crucially incorrect. As the probe vanished into faster-than-light travel, Admiral Rodriguez addressed the UN Security Council. "Ladies and gentlemen, Phase 1 is complete. The Meridians believe exactly what we want them to believe. Now we prepare for their return, and we show them exactly how primitive humanity can be." In orbit, Alina's ship continued its careful dance of appearing less advanced than it was. But inside, her crew was already analyzing the treasure trove of data they'd collected. Humanity had passed its first test in cosmic diplomacy, not by showing their strength, but by carefully hiding it. The game was set. The Meridians would return, expecting to find a simple, developing civilization eager for guidance. They would instead discover that humanity had been playing a very long game indeed. The real question was no longer whether Earth could survive first contact, but whether the Meridians were ready for what humanity had become. 6 months after the probe's departure, humanity's deception bore its first fruit. The Meridian Empire's initial assessment of Earth had been exactly what humanity intended. A promising but underdeveloped civilization, perfect for guidance. What the Empire didn't realize was that their every move was being watched through a network of quantum-entangled sensors that humanity had carefully hidden throughout the solar system. Dr. Alina Rossi stood in the heart of Earth's Quantum Defense Network headquarters, buried deep beneath the Antarctic ice. Around her, holographic displays showed real-time data from thousands of sensors. The Meridians were coming back, just as planned, but this time with a more sophisticated approach. "They're deploying their infiltration systems," Alina announced to the assembled military and scientific leadership, "exactly as we predicted." The Empire's stealth ships were releasing clouds of nanoscale quantum processors, their attempt to quietly compromise Earth's technological infrastructure. Admiral Rodriguez, now promoted to head of Earth's Defense Council, watched the incoming threat with practiced calm. "Are our countermeasures in place?" "Better than in place," Alina smiled. "They're already inside the Meridian systems." When the probe had left Earth's orbit 6 months ago, it had carried more than just corrupted data. Hidden within its quantum matrices was a dormant program of human design, one that had been slowly spreading through the Empire's network ever since. The Meridians, so confident in their technological superiority, never considered that a primitive civilization could hijack their systems. The Empire's infiltration began subtly. Their quantum processors, designed to interface with and control what they believed to be Earth's simple digital networks, spread through the atmosphere. But instead of finding vulnerable computer systems, they encountered humanity's hybrid network, a combination of classical computing, quantum processing, and biological neural interfaces that the Empire's technology couldn't begin to comprehend. In the monitoring chamber, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the Meridian attack unfold. "They're still trying to access our systems through standard quantum channels," she reported. "They haven't realized we abandoned those vulnerabilities decades ago." The Empire's infiltration attempt continued for hours, their processors becoming increasingly aggressive in their attempts to breach Earth's defenses. What they couldn't understand was that humanity's technology didn't follow their rigid, crystalline-based paradigms. Earth's systems were fluid, adaptive, combining multiple technological approaches in ways the Empire had never considered. Alina's team had prepared a special surprise for the infiltrators. As the Meridian processors attempted to breach Earth's networks, They instead encountered what appeared to be successful penetration points. These false networks, created specifically for this moment, began feeding the Empire carefully crafted disinformation. "They're taking the bait," Alina announced. Initiating Phase 2. The false networks suddenly came alive with activity, appearing to the Empire's systems as a planet-wide technological awakening. The Meridians, believing their infiltration had succeeded, began downloading what they thought was Earth's complete technological database. What they actually received was a massive quantum virus, designed specifically for their crystalline systems. As the virus spread through their network, it didn't destroy or damage. It simply observed and reported, sending valuable intelligence back to Earth through the quantum entanglement network. In orbit, the Empire's stealth ships began experiencing subtle malfunctions. Their crystalline quantum cores, the pride of Meridian technology, were being subtly reprogrammed. Not enough to alert their crews, but enough to ensure that every bit of data they collected about Earth would be slightly, crucially wrong. "Admiral," Alina called, her voice tight with excitement, "we're receiving the first data packets from their core systems. The Empire's entire technological database is being transmitted back to us through their own infiltration network." Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. How long before they realize what's happening? At their current rate of analysis, they won't. Their systems are too rigid, too specialized. They're looking for attacks that match their understanding of technology. This is like trying to explain water to a creature that's only ever known rocks. In the Empire's ships, the crews remained confident in their success. Their sensors showed their infiltration proceeding perfectly, their processors steadily compromising Earth's primitive networks. They had no way of knowing that they were the ones being compromised, their own technology being turned into a vast intelligence-gathering network for humanity. Dr. Chen's quantum displays showed the true extent of their success. "We're receiving their FTL drive specifications, weapons schematics, shield frequencies, everything. And they're still convinced they're the ones hacking us." The Empire's infiltration attempt continued for 3 more days. When their ships finally withdrew, their commanders were satisfied that they had successfully mapped Earth's technological capabilities and planted the seeds for future control. They didn't realize that humanity had just executed one of the most sophisticated intelligence operations in galactic history. As the Meridian ships disappeared into FTL, Alina addressed the Defense Council. "Phase 2 is complete. We now have full access to their technological database, their strategic plans, and their complete understanding of galactic civilization. More importantly, we've convinced them that we're exactly as advanced as we want them to think we are." Rodriguez studied the holographic display of the retreating ships. "How long before they make their next move?" "Based on their command protocols we've intercepted, they'll spend about 3 months analyzing their successful infiltration data. Then they'll return with what they believe will be an overwhelming show of force." "And we'll be ready," Rodriguez nodded. "Because this time, we'll know exactly what they're bringing." In the depths of the Quantum Defense Center, humanity's true technological might hummed quietly. The Empire would return, expecting to find a civilization barely beginning to grasp quantum mechanics. Instead, they would discover that humanity had been playing a far more sophisticated game than they could have imagined. The Silicon Gambit had worked perfectly. Now it was time to prepare for the real battle, one where humanity would finally show its true capabilities, not just to the Meridian Empire, but to the entire galaxy. The Meridian invasion fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the solar system, exactly as humanity's intelligence predicted. 3,000 ships strong, their crystalline hulls gleaming with barely contained energy, the fleet represented what the Empire considered overwhelming force. Their command had analyzed the data from their successful infiltration and prepared accordingly, or so they thought. In the Antarctic Command Center, Admiral Rodriguez watched the holographic display with practiced calm. "Status of Operation Trojan Horse. All systems nominal," Alina responded, her fingers dancing over quantum interfaces. The Empire's fleet is proceeding exactly as their tactical protocols dictate. They haven't detected any of our defensive installations. The Meridian fleet moved in a precise formation, their ships arranged in traditional Imperial battle lines. Their sensors swept the solar system, detecting exactly what humanity wanted them to see: a handful of orbital platforms, some primitive defense satellites, and a small fleet of what appeared to be hastily assembled warships near Earth's orbit. Fleet Commander Xerxes of the Meridian Empire stood on his flagship's bridge, his crystalline command interface showing him everything he expected to see. "Primitive defenses, just as our intelligence indicated," he announced to his bridge crew. "Prepare the standard subjugation protocols. Remember, we want to preserve their infrastructure for integration into the Empire." What Xerxes couldn't see was the true extent of humanity's defensive network. Thousands of quantum-cloaked platforms surrounded his fleet, their presence masked by technology that the Empire had never even theorized could exist. Humanity's real warships, hidden in dimensional pocket spaces, waited for the perfect moment to strike. Dr. Sarah Chen monitored the quantum entanglement readings from her station. They're still using the compromised command protocols we infected them with during the infiltration attempt. Their entire fleet's sensor network is showing them exactly what we want them to see. The Meridian fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, their formation tightening as they prepared for what they assumed would be a brief and decisive battle. Xerxes opened a channel to Earth, broadcasting in what he believed was an overwhelming display of imperial might. "People of Earth, you have been found wanting by the standards of the Meridian Empire. Surrender now, and your transition to imperial rule will be peaceful. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate the true power of superior civilization." Elena looked at Rodriguez, who nodded. It was time to spring the trap. "Initiating Phase 1 of Trojan Horse," Elena announced. At her command, the quantum virus that had been dormant in the Empire's systems began its work. Throughout the Meridian fleet, ship after ship began experiencing subtle malfunctions in their crystalline matrices. Xerxes frowned as his tactical display flickered. "Engineering, report." But before his engineers could respond, humanity revealed its first surprise. The primitive defense satellites suddenly transformed, their seemingly simple metal structures flowing like liquid to reveal advanced weapon systems that the Empire had never seen before. "Impossible," Xerxes exclaimed. "Their technology level couldn't possibly." His words were cut off as the first wave of humanity's true fleet emerged from their dimensional pockets. These weren't the crude vessels the Empire had detected earlier. These ships were works of art, their hulls combining metallic, biological, and quantum technologies in ways that defied Imperial understanding. "All ships, battle formations," Xerxes commanded, but his fleet's responses were sluggish. The quantum virus had spread throughout their command and control systems, causing subtle but crucial delays in their reactions. Elena's voice carried a hint of satisfaction as she reported, "Phase 2 initiated. Quantum disruption fields are active." The space around the Meridian fleet suddenly lit up with a web of quantum energy. The Empire's ships, so dependent on their crystalline technology, found their systems trying to operate through an environment that seemed to defy their fundamental understanding of physics. Humanity's ships moved with impossible grace, their hybrid technology unaffected by the disruption fields. They didn't fire traditional weapons. Instead, they deployed what appeared to be clouds of metallic dust. The Meridians initially dismissed these as primitive attempts at obscurement. Then the dust came alive. Billions of nanoscale machines, each one carrying a quantum processor more advanced than anything the Empire had developed, swarmed over the Imperial ships. They didn't destroy, they converted. Crystal by crystal, system by system, they began transforming the Imperial technology into something new, something hybrid. "Status of the convergent process," Rodriguez asked. 30% of their fleet has been compromised," Chen reported. "Their crystalline systems are being converted into hybrid processors. They literally can't comprehend what's happening to their ships." In space, the battle wasn't proceeding like any conflict the Empire had ever encountered. Humanity's ships danced through their formation, not destroying but transforming. When Imperial vessels fired their energy weapons, the beams were caught in quantum fields and redirected, their energy harvested and repurposed. Xerxes watched in horror as his flagship systems began displaying impossible readings. The crystalline interface under his hands was changing, becoming something that violated everything he understood about technology. What are they doing to our ships? The answer came in the form of a transmission from Elena. Commander Xerxes, your ships are not being destroyed. They're being upgraded. We're demonstrating what happens when you don't limit yourself to a single technological path. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the mighty Imperial fleet hung in space, transformed. Their ships still functioned, but now they operated on principles that their crews barely understood. Final status report, Rodriguez requested. Complete success, Elena answered. The entire Meridian fleet has been converted to hybrid technology. Their crews are unharmed, but their ships now operate on our principles rather than Imperial standards. Xerxes stood on his bridge, staring at systems that seemed to defy reality itself. His mighty Imperial fleet hadn't been defeated, it had been transcended. And in that moment, he understood the true lesson humanity was teaching. Technology wasn't about choosing one path and perfecting it. It was about embracing all possibilities, about combining different approaches in ways that created something greater than the sum of its parts. The battle was over, but its implications would echo throughout the galaxy. Humanity had revealed itself not as a primitive civilization to be uplifted, but as a species that had fundamentally reimagined what technology could be. As the transformed Imperial fleet hung in space, Elena transmitted one final message to Xerxes. Now, Commander, shall we discuss what real advancement looks like? In the Grand Conference Chamber of the Lunar Diplomatic Center, the transformed crystalline architecture of the Meridian delegation sparkled alongside Earth's hybrid technology. 1 month had passed since Operation Trojan Horse, and the galaxy's power dynamics had shifted dramatically. The Meridian Empire, for the first time in its 1,000-year history, sat at a negotiating table as equals rather than conquerors. Fleet Commander Xerxes, now serving as the Empire's chief diplomatic representative, studied the hybrid interface before him with a mixture of fascination and lingering unease. The technology that had once been purely crystalline now pulsed with multiple forms of energy, representing the merger of imperial and human innovation. Our scientists are still struggling to comprehend how your civilization developed these technologies in parallel, Xerxes admitted to the human delegation. The Empire has always believed that crystalline quantum matrices represented the peak of technological evolution. Dr. Elena Rossi, now Earth's Minister of Interstellar Relations, smiled warmly. That's precisely why we maintained our deception for so long. We needed to demonstrate that true advancement comes not from perfecting a single path, but from exploring all possibilities. The meeting chamber's displays showed real-time data from across the solar system, where Meridian crews were learning to operate their transformed vessels. The ships, once limited to crystalline technology, now incorporated biological processors, quantum metamaterials, and dozens of other innovations that the Empire had never considered possible. What I find most remarkable, Dr. Sarah Chen added, is how quickly your crystalline systems adapted to our hybrid modifications. It's as if they were always capable of this evolution, but the Empire's rigid technological doctrine prevented it. Xerxes nodded slowly. We had become so convinced of our superiority that we stopped looking for alternatives. Your civilization's approach to technology is humbling. The discussions continued for hours, covering everything from technological exchange protocols to cultural integration. The Empire, despite its initial shock, was beginning to see the benefits of humanity's diverse approach to innovation. Tell me, Xerxes asked during a break in the formal negotiations, how did your species avoid becoming locked into a single technological path? The Empire's records show that most civilizations naturally gravitate toward whatever technology gives them their first major breakthrough. Admiral Rodriguez, who had been quietly observing the proceedings, stepped forward. We almost did. There were times in our history when we could have focused solely on digital computing, or genetic engineering, or quantum mechanics. But our diversity, our different cultures, viewpoints, and approaches kept us exploring multiple paths. The Admiral gestured to the hybrid displays around them. What you see here isn't just technology. It's a reflection of humanity's fundamental nature. We argue, we compete, we pursue different ideas simultaneously. Sometimes it's messy, but it prevents us from becoming trapped in a single way of thinking. As if to demonstrate this point, the chamber's systems suddenly shifted, the displays adapting to better accommodate meridian visual preferences. The Empire's representatives watched in amazement as the technology around them actively evolved to facilitate better communication. Your systems, one of the Imperial scientists observed, they're learning from our presence. Elena nodded. Just as we learned from you. That's another principle we discovered. Technology shouldn't be static. It should grow and adapt alongside its users. The implications of this approach were sending shockwaves through the Empire's rigid social structure. Reports were already coming in from Imperial worlds about citizens questioning the traditional focus on crystalline technology. Some were beginning to experiment with hybrid systems of their own. There will be resistance, Xerxes warned. Many in the Empire will see this as a threat to our way of life. Change is always challenging, Elena acknowledged. But consider this. Your ships haven't been destroyed or replaced. They've been enhanced. Your civilization hasn't been conquered. It's been given new possibilities. The diplomatic sessions continued for days, but the real exchange was happening in laboratories and workshops throughout the solar system. Meridian scientists worked alongside human researchers, each learning from the other's approach. The Empire's crystalline technology, it turned out, had capabilities that humanity hadn't imagined, just as human hybrid systems open new horizons for Imperial engineers. We're proposing the establishment of a joint innovation center, Elena announced during the final session, a place where our civilizations can collaborate on pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Xerxes studied the proposal through his hybrid interface, watching as the technology adapted to his thought patterns. A month ago, such a merger of different technological approaches would have seemed impossible, even heretical. Now, he saw it as the natural next step. The Empire agrees, he declared, but with one condition. We want to learn not just your technology, but your approach to innovation itself. We've discovered that there's more to advancement than perfecting a single system. As the diplomatic summit concluded, the transformed Imperial fleet prepared to return home. But they would return not as conquered vessels, but as symbols of a new era, one where diversity of thought and approach was recognized as the true path to advancement. Elena watched the ships depart, their hybrid systems now a testament to what was possible when different civilizations chose cooperation over conquest. They're going to change the galaxy, she mused. No, Rodriguez corrected her. We're going to change it together. Because that's what humans do best. We don't just adapt to change. We help others embrace it too. The Meridian ships disappeared into FTL, their hybrid drives creating beautiful patterns that neither civilization could have achieved alone. In the Lunar Diplomatic Center, humans and Meridians continued their discussions, each learning from the other, each growing stronger through diversity rather than uniformity. The warning came 3 months after the establishment of the Joint Innovation Center. Deep space quantum sensors, combining human ingenuity with meridian crystalline precision, detected something approaching from the galactic core, something that defied both human and imperial understanding. In the center's main observatory, Dr. Elena Rossi and Fleet Commander Xerxes stood side by side, watching as the hybrid displays showed them what their separate technologies never could have revealed alone. A vast cloud of what appeared to be dark energy was moving through space, consuming everything in its path. The void entity, Xerxes whispered, his scales shifting color in distress. We thought it was just a legend. Elena turned to him sharply. You know what this is? There are ancient imperial records, stories passed down from the earliest days of our civilization. They speak of a cosmic entity that devours technology itself, an anti-technological force that breaks down any artificial construction back to its base components. The displays showed the entity's path of destruction. Entire star systems went dark as it passed, their technological infrastructures simply ceasing to exist. Both human and Meridian long-range sensors detected the same pattern. The more advanced a civilization's technology, the more it attracted the entity's attention. Admiral Rodriguez, now coordinating the Joint Human Meridian Defense Force, called an emergency session. How long do we have? At its current velocity, 3 weeks until it reaches the nearest Imperial colony, Dr. Sarah Chen reported. 5 weeks until it reaches Earth. Our hybrid sensors show it's accelerating as it encounters more advanced technology. The entity posed a unique threat. Both human and Meridian civilizations had built their societies on technological advancement. The void entity didn't just threaten their military capabilities, it threatened their very way of life. Traditional weapons will be useless, Xerxes explained. The entity absorbs and breaks down any technology it encounters. The more powerful the weapon, the more it strengthens the entity. Elena studied the data streams, her mind racing through possibilities. Then we need to think beyond traditional technology. We need to find a way to use the entity's nature against itself. The next 2 weeks saw unprecedented cooperation between human and Meridian scientists. The Joint Innovation Center became a crucible of ideas, where different approaches to technology merged and evolved. They weren't just combining their existing knowledge. They were creating entirely new branches of science. Look at these readings, Elena pointed out during one late-night session. The entity doesn't actually destroy technology. It converts it into pure energy. It's not anti-technology. It's the ultimate expression of technological evolution. Xerxes' scales shifted to a deep blue of revelation. Of course, it's not our enemy. It's trying to communicate. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young human physicist, working with a Meridian crystal master, discovered that the entity responded to certain patterns in quantum fluctuations. It wasn't mindlessly consuming technology. It was searching for something. It's looking for worthy partners, Elena realized. All this time, it's been testing civilizations, seeking ones advanced enough to understand its true nature. With only days remaining before the entity reached the first Imperial colony, humans and Meridians raced to implement their plan. They would need every ship, every quantum processor, every crystalline matrix working in perfect harmony. The combined fleet assembled at the colony's orbit, not to fight, but to communicate. Human hybrid ships flew in formation with transformed Imperial vessels, their technologies synchronized in ways that would have seemed impossible months ago. As the void entity approached, it appeared as a wall of darkness that consumed light itself. But the fleet didn't retreat. Instead, they began broadcasting on all frequencies, using their combined technologies to create a quantum symphony of unprecedented complexity. The entity paused. For the first time in recorded history, the cosmic force that had terrorized galaxies stopped its advance. The quantum patterns created by the human Meridian fleet had caught its attention. Elena and Xerxes, aboard the flagship, watched as their sensors detected changes in the entity's structure. It wasn't just stopping, it was responding. By all the crystal matrices, Xerxes breathed. It's beautiful. The void entity began to transform. The darkness that had seemed so threatening now shifted, revealing patterns of energy that mirrored the fleet's broadcast. It wasn't destroying technology. It was elevating it to a higher state of existence. Through their combined quantum networks, humans and Meridians began to understand. The entity was a remnant of an ancient civilization that had transcended traditional technology. It hadn't been destroying less advanced civilizations. It had been searching for ones capable of joining it in ascension. This was never about survival, Elena realized. It was about evolution. The next few hours changed the course of both human and Meridian history. The entity shared knowledge beyond anything either civilization had imagined, ways of manipulating reality that made their most advanced technologies seem primitive in comparison. But most importantly, it showed them why their combined approach had succeeded where others had failed. The merger of human adaptability with Meridian precision, the willingness to explore multiple paths while maintaining perfect control, this was the key to technological transcendence. As the entity departed, leaving both civilizations forever changed, Elena and Xerxes stood in the Innovation Center, watching their transformed technologies at work. "We thought we were so advanced," Xerxes mused. "The Empire spent millennia perfecting our crystalline technology, believing it was the peak of evolution. Humans spent centuries exploring countless different paths, but it was only together that we became ready for the next step." Elena nodded, watching as the hybrid displays showed the entity moving on, no longer a threat but a teacher. That's the greatest lesson, isn't it? True advancement doesn't come from perfecting a single path or even from exploring many paths separately. It comes from learning to combine those paths, from understanding that diversity isn't just about having different approaches. It's about finding ways to make those differences work together. The Joint Innovation Center hummed with new energy as humans and Meridians began exploring their expanded understanding of the universe. They had faced what they thought was an existential threat and discovered instead a new beginning. The dawn of understanding had arrived, not just between two civilizations, but between all technological life and the greater cosmos that awaited them.